So hello and welcome to the VideoNAP and Twitter Tipster Challenge of Cheltenham Day 1. Yes, after some considerable demand, mainly Maddie Blale, we are back. No blog, basically I haven't got the time to do it, but people wanted the competition, the Twitter Tips Challenge to take place. So I'm giving all 6 people who demanded it what they wanted. Hopefully we're going to have people for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's going to be the same format as before. In case you don't know, myself playing against 3 or 4 people. Hopefully it's 4 people for Tuesday. Hopefully we're going to have 4 people every day as well. Tip for each race, nap and a next best. If your nap wins, you get triple the odds of SP. If your next best wins, you get double the odds. And then whoever wins is the most person makes the most money from a £1 unit stake. But anyway, say no blog. Just haven't got the time to do a blog these days. But I'm going to do the VideoNAP and Twitter Tipster Challenge as before. We'll start off with the VideoNAP for Cheltenham Day 1. But by the way, do apologise if I'm a little bit rusty, because usually I film these after writing a blog, so I've got all the horses and whatnot ingrained in my head. Instead, I've just made some quick notes on a pad down there. So do apologise if I'm constantly looking down and seem to know less than what I usually do, which is probably not a lot, to be honest. I probably don't know much, to be honest, but might seem I know even less than usual as I keep looking down at my pad. But do bear with me. It's the first time that I've done anything like a video since Royal Ascot, I believe. So I say do bear with. If you get to the end of the video and you haven't tore your hair out, then fair play to you. Anyway, we're going to go with the VideoNAP. I actually quite like, because I think some of the bigger races, especially the heavy ground, they could be quite hard to call. They will be. But there's a couple I like in the handicapped, actually. In the last, which is going to be the VideoNAP, I quite like Mr. Whitaker. If you look at his 2 runs this season, you can't complain, really. Last time out, a decent enough course winner. And the time before that, he was second behind Hell's Kitchen of Harry Fry's, who, although I think he's ran since in Leopardstown, and didn't quite do much. I think he got pulled up, actually, or if he didn't, he was well beaten. I think he's still a good horse on his day. I think he's well handicapped. And I just feel like Mr. Whitaker, obviously, I wouldn't quite call it creepy at the bottom of the weight, because it's not a lot separating top to bottom weight. But he does squeezing at the bottom, and I just feel like he's got a nice profile, and I think there's plenty to like. And I know he's been backed at the time of recording. It's about 10 to 9 on Monday evening, at which point he's been backed. But the first point I chose him, which was Sunday afternoon, he was quite a big price, actually. I'm not surprised to see he's been backed, and I think he can still get 8 or 9 to 1. So yeah, I do like Mr. Whitaker in the last. So he's a VideoNAP. The next best is another horse I've just had my eye on for a while, because in the Ultima, I don't think it's quite a good renewal, really. No, I don't think it's that good a renewal. Nothing really stood out. I think there's a few criteria that certain winners that race have adhered to, and I do like Vintage Clouds. As I'll mention when I go through race previews, there's a lot. I think there's a lot to like about him. There's a lot in his favour. I say I'll wait until we get into the Ultima to mention why. Quickly go back to the TTC. I'm going to talk about the competitors. We have got myself, Maddie Plale, Rye. We've got Matt Clarkson, and a late reserve. I know Key J was meant to be playing, William Kajani. Unfortunately, he didn't get any tips in to me. I believe he's busy, so we've put him in for Friday. He'll be replaced by the one and only Pat Mustard. So Pat Mustard will be joining myself, Rye, Matt and Maddie. I'll give you their tips will be put underneath this video, so keep an eye out for those. Anyway, let's go into each race. Let's get the pad out. We'll start off with Supreme. Obviously, Getterbird's chances can't be ignored. I think there's a lot to like, to be honest, about his chances. Obviously, it'll be, if you know me, I don't like to go for shorts if I can help it. In a big field, there's going to be plenty of going on. There's plenty to oppose him with. I've liked Kalashnikov for a while. I like the way he's improved plenty. I know he was beaten behind Somerville Boy in the Tolworth on ground which possibly might be similar to today, whatever you want to call it, whenever you're watching. And I know you could say maybe Somerville Boy will reverse the form, but to me, Kalashnikov won the Betfair hurdle on what was quite soft ground. To me, I think he's a horse improving every race. Yes, again, you could argue that Somerville Boy should beat Kalashnikov based on the Tolworth run, but I quite like the fact that in Kalashnikov's favour, I think he's improving. If you look at Somerville Boy, the 3 times the 3 races before he won the Tolworth, he was beaten by horses that really, to me, if he's going to win a race like this, he should have been beaten. Whereas I think Kalashnikov, maybe more so than Somerville Boy, is improving all the time. And I feel like he's worth his chance in this. And I think if he can replicate his Betfair Hurdle run, I think he's well worth a shot. We saw My Tintor Yours a few years ago win the Betfair Hurdle as a novice before coming a close second in this behind Champagne Fever. And I don't see why Kalashnikov shouldn't be that close again, really. And if Get a Bird is good as Champagne Fever, who knows? But for me, Kalashnikov is the main fancy for V Supreme. The secondary fancy, as you will probably know, in big fields, I do like to go for 2 horses. The second horse will be First Flow. Quite simply, he loves the ground. Last couple of times been mega impressive. It's a big step up, undoubtedly, but if he can get a lead and really grind as much as the opposition into submission as possible, he could take some pegging back. And it's obviously, we all know that heavy ground can chuck up some bad results. And obviously we've seen it banded around Twitter how people may be fancying an upset in the Supreme. And there could be actually some bigger upsets to occur then First Flow. There's some horses who you wouldn't have fancied further down the list, who with the rain that's come now could creep into it. But for me, First Flow, you would deem an outsider in a sense, in the fact that he's not seemingly good enough, better than Get a Bird and Kalashnikov. But he's going to love the ground, and he's won his last 2 nicely, and for me, about 11-1, I think he is a decent enough bet. Now, what else have I got written down here? Not a lot, really. From Ireland, we also have Mengley Khan and Paloma Blue. I respect them both. To me, Paloma Blue hasn't shown that he'd be quite good enough to win this. I'm going to stick to my guns on that regard. Mengley Khan was soundly beaten by Get a Bird last time out, and I don't see him reversing the form. I feel like he's a horse that maybe had his better runs early on the season, and maybe, so to speak, the elastic is starting to snap a little bit. I feel like Mengley Khan might not be a horse on the improve compared to some of them he's against today/tomorrow, whenever you're watching. Anyway, on to the Arkle. Hopefully be a bit of a shorter review on this race. Footpad should be very hard to beat. I think he's a very good jumper. You can't argue what he's done so far. I think he has beaten Petit Mouchoir. Based on what we did last time out, I don't really see Petit Mouchoir reversing the form. I'm not going to go for Footpad on his price. To me, then it's probably between St. Calvados and Petit Mouchoir. Like I've just said, I don't see Petit Mouchoir reversing the form. He's ran at Cheltenham twice, Petit Mouchoir. He did run well in the Champion Hurdle last year when he was 3rd, but I don't know if he quite took to Cheltenham, really. And he wasn't the greatest Champion Hurdle. And the year before that, he was quite soundly beaten in Altior Supreme. And to me, you ask yourself, is Cheltenham his bag? And I'm not quite sure, to be honest. Now, as for St. Calvados, 5-year-olds don't have the best record in the Arkle, but if you've seen St. Calvados race, you'll see that he's not really got the appearance of a 5-year-old. He's built like an absolute beast. As soon as I saw him in his British debut in Newbury, I thought to myself, what a horse he is. He's going to be such a good horse for the future. It's going to be tough in the Arkle, but just the size of him, and there's no surprise in that. His jumping is really impressive. It's slick and it's scopy. Yeah, and like I've said earlier, 5-year-olds don't have a good record in the Arkle. He is 5, but to look at him, he doesn't look like a 5-year-old. So if we're talking about the size of horses, I don't think the spectacle should get to him because he's so big and scopy. He's a horse I really like. Since his Newbury debut, British debut, he's won twice since after that. He's won them both with consummate ease. The ground will be no problem. I really like this horse. And if he can get into a rhythm like he has been, because his jumping is his main facet, if he can get into a rhythm like he has been, he could seriously give Footpad a great race in what looks like it could well be the race of day one. Brain Power hasn't completed in his last 2 starts. Slight question marks over his jumping. Would I want to back him against the aforementioned 3? Not for me. And Robin Sills going to need a miracle to win. We're going to go on to the Ultima now. I've already mentioned, I like Vintage Clouds. If you look at recent run-ins of the race, you need a horse ideally below 150 on official ratings, which would rule out Gold Present, who was a long-time favourite. I think he's still favourite, but long-time favourite Gold Present would rule him out. No, he's not favourite, that's Kustar Sivela. But another rule is 6-year-olds don't tend to have a good record, which would rule out Kustar Sivela. The current favourite, of course, Gold Present, was favourite for a long time beforehand, until probably the rain came, which has seen him drift. Yeah, I like Vintage Clouds. Consistent. The ground will be no problem. He will stay. And I just think he's potentially well weighted. I can't remember exactly what his weight is. I do apologise. We've got it written down here. No, I haven't, stupidly. But I feel like he's well weighted. I think he's in the 140s, isn't he? And I feel like he could be well weighted to run a decent race. My other fancy is another horse I think is extremely well weighted. He wasn't really a horse that I've actually considered for a race like this, because I just feel like he's quite a frustrating horse. But having looked at the race again, I am definitely drawn to Single Farm Payment. Only £3 higher last year when coming second, and then narrow second to Untempo 2. He hasn't been in quite the same vein of form this season, but he ran behind Definitely Red in the Cotswold Chase last time out. You could argue that was too tough a race for him. I say he's well weighted based on last year's run. He's in probably calmer waters for that this time round. If he can recapture some of that form from last season, from last year's race, he's gonna be well in the mix. You'll have to excuse me, by the way. I did say horses below 150 tend to be the ones you need to look for. Of course, Untempo 2 did win off top weight last year in the 150s, but as a rule, given Untempo 2 won the year before that as well, we clearly know that he's a horse that can act around Cheltenham. I think he was only like £7 higher, which really, for a horse that's won a race, isn't a lot really. So I think we can, if you're looking for stats, I think you could put a line for that run, because obviously we know Untempo 2 can do it. So I think you do need to be looking, ideally, if we are going to rule horses out, with official ratings at 150 or below if you're going on stats. Ultima done. Nice big one. Champion Hurdle. In comparison to previous Champion Hurdles, it's quite a big field. You're looking at probably a lot of no-hopers in the field. There is one at quite chunky odds who I do fancy, which I'll mention in a minute. The main fancy is Faheen, purely because I think at 6 to 1 is a good price. Yes, he pulled up 2 starts back, but last time out, he definitely bounced back to something, not nowhere near his best. But it was definitely a step in the right direction. And if he can recapture something of the form that saw him on the Morgiana earlier in the season, it could be definitely him with a big shout. Before Dare deserves to be favourite. I won't be backing him odds on. I think he's ran in a lot of no contest this season. It's definitely going to be the toughest race he's raced in. The ground obviously, I don't think it's going to be ideal for him. And at a price odds on, I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't touch him anyway at that odds, but I'd be even more deterred at having him at those sort of odds. Obviously it's a leap of faith with Faheen, but if Before Dare some reason doesn't perform, and Faheen comes something near his best of when he won the race a few years back, then I think definitely Faheen at 6 to 1 would be the one I would go for. The outsider I quite like is Mick Jazz. Now, last two starts back, he won the race that Faheen was pulled up in at Leopardstown. I know last time obviously he was behind Faheen, but he beat Mellon, a horse who he lost to earlier on the season, which implies that he's getting better. / maybe early on the season, maybe handicaps for his goal. But if maybe Elliott has noticed that he's improved, or have seen that there's these big races for the taking, maybe the handbrake, so to speak, has been taken off, and maybe he's been allowed to run more to his best ability. I say last time out he was a fairly creditable third behind Faheen and Super Sunday. Obviously, Super Sunday doesn't turn up here. He goes for the World Hurdle or Sayers Hurdle, all being well. Faheen obviously is already mentioned. I think Faheen is going to be boom or bust. And if he does bust, if he does pull up or runs a bad race, then Mick Jazz is obviously the best horse to take out of that race who's going to be lining up here. Obviously, won last time out, likes the ground. Time before he won, I think it was time before he won over Christmas, he was well beaten behind Apple's Jade over 2 mile 4, but 2 mile 4 is probably too far for him. 2 miles his bag. He likes the ground. David Russell on top, 33 to 1. If this race is random and as chaotic as it could be, 33 to 1 like Mick Jazz could be quite a chunky price. So for me, Faheen and Mick Jazz in the big race, the Champion Hurdle. Now we're on to the Mares Hurdle. Slightly quicker again to review than other races. Apple's Jade should be winning this, and she'll be tough to beat. But obviously, again, odds on with the ground. I'm looking to oppose. I will oppose with the second favourite, Benny de Dieu. Obviously, it's her toughest race, an absolute country mile so far. But I like what she's done so far. Won races with relative ease, especially one at Carlisle. I think it was a listed chase. Obviously, she has been chasing recently. Goes back over hurdles. Appleshade narrowly beat Limini and Vroom Vroom Mag in the same silks as Benny Desdieu last year in this race. Wait to see whether Benny Desdieu is as good as those two. Obviously, Vroom Vroom Mag was a very good horse. But if Appleshade underperforms, Benny Desdieu obviously has got plenty of improvement in her, plenty to look forward to. And I think, if you're going to oppose favourite, she's probably going to oppose her with. Jers Girl, I think Appleshade should have the beating of her based on past runs. I probably wouldn't be backing her. The Bagawa has been winning very nicely, but it's just she needs further than 2 miles to be at her best. And obviously, is she as good as Appleshade again? And then Kate Grace again, I don't think should be good enough. Again, you could say to me, Benny Desdieu, what she's done so far won't be good enough to beat Appleshade. But of course, with I'm going to shorten her name to BDD because I'm going to stop saying Benny Desdieu. With BDD, I think it's a step into the unknown, and who knows what she's got in the locker. Probably won't be good enough to beat Appleshade, but for me, looks most likely to do it. So Benny Desdieu, BDD in the Mares Hurdle. 2 more races to go. The 4 miler. I think as the main fancy in this, I had it between the top 2 in the market at the time of recording. Jury Duty and Mossback. Tentatively went for Mossback. Ground shouldn't be a problem. Should stay. Lisa O'Neill won the race. Well, Lisa O'Neill and Gordon Elliott won the race last year of Tiger Roll. Looks like it'll stay. Looks tough. Plenty to like. So Mossback is main fancy. A horse at a bigger price I've got like is Jewel at Dawn. I think he'll stay. Well, whether he'll stay 4 miles, I don't know. But I think he's got a better chance of staying 4 miles than some of these. Of course, he's stepping into the unknown. I think most of these in the field regarding them staying. But I feel like I think he'll stay. He was beaten behind Ms. Parfois who reopposes at Warwick last time. But I feel like if Miss Parfois is 7s and Jewel at Dawn is 16s, I'm being nibbled out from 20s actually. I feel like Jewel at Dawn could be overpriced actually. So Jewel at Dawn is the secondary fancy in the 4 miler. And finally, for the Close Brothers, like I've said, I fancy Mr. Whittaker for the reasons why. The secondary fancy for that race is actually at the top of the weights is Testify. I've loved what he's done this season, winning some group races. Mostly, well, the races it's won last few times has been at Haydock. Ground will be no problem. He's tough as teak. I think actually, although he carries top weight, I think off 145 he could be well handicapped actually. It's interesting that Donald McCain doesn't opt to run him in the RSA or the JLT. But I feel like he might have actually given a good account of himself. So clearly Donald McCain thinks that off 145 he's well handicapped to run a half decent race. And I just love this horse. He's so tough. If you watch him race, he looks like he's beat sometimes, but he just finds and he finds and he finds. And although Cheltenham will be a different bag to small field races at Haydock, I say we know he goes on the ground. He's admirable and tough, and he's a lovable horse, even though he's only young. And we haven't seen him a lot. He's so tough. And I think he's symbolic. It's the one horse I would take out of Donald McCain. Donald McCain's improvement this season. He's had his best season for ages. I think if I was to take one horse to symbolise that, it'd be Testify. And I would love to see him run a good race because he's had such a good season. Seeing him run a good race here would be wonderful. Anyway, well deserved cough after all that. There are all the fancies. Don't worry. Videos for the other days won't be as long as this. Hopefully, it's only been longer because I've been introducing the blog to people that don't know about it. Done a bit of yabbering at the start, which hopefully I can cut down on as I go through the week. And obviously, first time I've done a blog in a while, so hopefully you can cut me some slack for the yabbering at the start and now, of course. So the VideoNAP, Mr. Whittaker, the next best vintage clouds. Check out the tips below of TTCers Maddie, Matt, Rye and Pat Mustard. Check their tips out below. I wish you a very best of luck for the opening day at Cheltenham. Hope that plenty of winners, and hopefully, all being well, you'll see me tomorrow with the second VideoNAP Twitter Tips Challenge of the week. But for now, best of luck and goodbye.